All right, guys. First off, as always, good day. I'm glad you're here. Today, we're going to be continuing the French Revolution, but now we're going to get into um, the beginning parts of it. The gears start to go in. Last week, the last video was basically telling you the situation that they were in and stuff like that. Now you're going to see it as it's happening. Okay. See. The objective today, we're going to analyze the significance of the tennis court oath, and we're going to examine what the Bastille meant to the poor French people and the nobles, because each one of them viewed it as a different way, you know. And then the last one is create an argument on whether Louis XVI actually thought that the people would turn against him. Okay, so next is the warm up. All right, so here is your warm-up picture. The first question asks you to analyze the picture and basically what's going on here. All right. Now look, there's a lot of action in this warm-up picture. There's hands going here, there. If you look at the body language of some of the people, some of that should give you some ideas. Um, I wish I had a little pencil thing, I could show you. But if you notice on the bottom, there's some people trying to write stuff down. If you look towards the center where the dude with his hand up, some of that. If you look near his foot, you'll see somebody like trying to write something down. Then there's another guy where these other guys are huddled. You see some kind of leaning in, trying to hear. So what do you think's going on? Okay. And again, like I said, look at this whole covered area, then look at the top and stuff like that. Okay. Now the second question basically asks you, what do you think all these guys are in the small area for? Obviously, as you can see, they're pretty like compacted in there. So why do you think they're all there for? Again, it's a prediction. So what do you think? And judging from again the first question when you analyzed it, it should really help you out. And to make a good, solid prediction of what they're doing there, what they're talking about, probably, you know. Okay, but just share with me, what do you think they're all in there for? Okay, so go ahead, finish writing. Uh, Pause the video if you're still writing, but we're moving on in three, two, one. All right, so here's the thing. The French queen at the time, her name was Marie Antoinette. She was a queen, well, princess, before she even got married to the French king. She was, if I remember right, she was from Germany. She got from German descent. And I think she was known for her extravagance and her, you know, um, kind of always dressing in the nicest clothing, the hats, the perfumes, stuff like that. And this caused a lot of people to kind of resent her. They're like, oh, look at little Missy, this is that, having to wear a brand new corset, brand new outfit all the time, and things like that. So remember, this year the theme is breaking the mandala, breaking those myths and legends that you guys hear of people, what people say is true. One of them does apply to her. Now, what happened was the story goes that she's being told that the French people are starving. People are dying of starvation in the street. And they say she famously says, "Let them eat cake." Now, why is that significant? Because the thing is, cake was actually just it was a delicacy. It's not like nowadays where you can go down to the gas station and get some Hostess cupcakes and this and that. You know, it wasn't like that back then. Only the very rich could have cakes and pies and desserts anytime they want. The poorer people couldn't barely get bread, let alone cake. You know, so she's like, "Oh, let them have cake." People saw that as like, "Oh my God, this little wench, just having cake, just have cake." But here's the thing: she never said that. She never said let them eat cake, you know. Um, but the thing is, people have heard it, the legend goes on, and still to this day, some people still believe that she said that. And it's become kind of like a pop culture thing too as well. You know, that whole the just the phrase let them eat cake, you know, it means like, hey, well, it's just whatever, kind of thing. It's just whatever they want, you know. It's become synonymous. And the thing is, she never said that. She never said it. Okay. So going back to the French government, what happened is at this time too, the French are in debt. They owe a lot of money. Um, and what happened is across the Atlantic, the the British and the Americans are fighting. Right, the Americans are fighting for their independence, and the French and English people, they hate each other. They really don't like each other. But the thing is, the Americans are like, we need help, we need money, we need ships, we need soldiers, and the French are kind of hesitant, because they're like, oh, we don't know if the American people, those colonists, can win. But after several battles, the Americans look like they might pull it off. They actually captured, I believe it was 8,000 soldiers without firing a single shot. They just set up a really good ambush and caught like 8,000 British soldiers. So then the French were like, okay, let's help them out. Let's give them what they need. Because you have to remember, at this time, Britain was the biggest, baddest army in the world, and they're about to lose. It seems like they might be losing to the American colonists. So the French jumped in and said, yeah, we'll help you out. So that put them more in debt. And to make matters worse, they had two back-to-back years of bad harvest. Right? So food was not growing from weather, um, insects, pesticide, bacteria in the ground, the crops, and some of that. So the price of food went up quite a bit, and people had to be laid off from work. You know, Again, not just the farmers, but other places too. Places that make, let's say, a bakery. They don't have enough wheat to make bread, so why have two, three bakers when you just need one person? Um, you know, uh, there's no point. There's no point of trying to make more stuff if people aren't buying. So people start losing their jobs. Um, so while the French people are losing jobs, they're having no money. The first and second estate, the clergy and the noble people, as well as the king and queen and all them, um, they were living large. They were living very, very well. They could afford to buy food. They could afford to buy extra stuff, clothing, and things like that. Um, but word got to him, hey, that the French people are getting really upset. So to kind of lower the tension and lower the anger, he says, okay, okay, fine. We'll have a meeting between the three estates, you know. And that did stop the anger for a bit, but as you're going to find out, it just came back up. All right. So here's your first question. What are some possible reasons why people still to this day believe Marie Antoinette really said, let them eat cake? Okay. Um, so this middle little gift, thing, that's from a movie. I believe it was made like in the early 2000s with that Kristen Dunst. Um, and it's called Marie Antoinette, you know. So maybe that might help. Um, so I'm trying to think of other stuff why people would believe she said it, even though it's proven she never did. So why do you think people still hold on to that? Won't let it just let the facts be the facts and move on. Okay. So if you're still writing, please continue to write. But if you're done, we're moving on in three, two, One. All right. So now with the meeting, um, the state general meeting has been done before. Here's the thing. Um, Basically, how it goes is the majority rules. So if two estates agree on something, then that's how it goes. Okay. Either all three of them agree or at least two of them, and then that's it. Here's the problem: the first two estates, the clergy and the nobles, they always agreed to make things better for them. Okay. Now at this meeting, they had 300 representatives. That's about, for just 500,000 people. That's like 400,000 people. There is 300 people. Now, for the third estate, the peasant people, they had 600 representatives, but they represented 26 million. Now, again, 300 people for 500,000, but 600 to represent 26 million. If you wanted to be fair, right, for every 300 people represented 500,000, if you did that with the third estate would have 15,600 representatives if you wanted to make it even. But that's the thing. It didn't matter how many representatives there were. It's as long as the estates agree, then that's it. As long as two of them agreed. And the first two were always going to agree on something that made things better for them, and it made the third estate pay for the rest, or hurt them in any which way. Okay, now the thing is, um, the king was like, yeah, that system of majority rules, it's tradition, the way we've always done it. Why change things? Why count every representative? No, 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 no. Let's stick to the old ways. Now this really ticked off the third estate. And so on June 17th, 1789, the third estate basically met in secret, and they said, we need to make a constitution. A constitution about what a government, what it should do, their limits, their powers, what kind of rights do the people have, things like that. Um, Now, word got to the first and second estate people that they were doing this. So they locked the doors and they said, no, no, you can't meet in here, you know. And I guess they figured, well, that's it. And these people will just go away. There's no way, 600 people can all meet at one place. And they did. June 20th, um, what happened was when the doors were locked, they decided to meet at this place you see in this picture right here. It's actually an indoor tennis court. And that picture you see, the warm up, it's right there in the wall if you look at it. Imagine that 600 people in this room, you know, yelling, screaming, saying, "Oh, we should have this right. Oh, the government should do this. Oh, we should limit their power on this." Shouting. 600 people in this room right there, as you see. And also, you have to remember, it's in June, so it's hot. These guys are wearing clothing up to here, to their neck, all the way to their wrist. Um, it's hot. 600 people in that small room. It's clustered. Some of these guys didn't take showers like every day. Yeah. So you can just imagine the smell, the heat, the noise, right? But this is the oath that they decided to take. They said they agreed basically not to separate and to reassemble whenever necessary until the constitution of the kingdom is established. So, like, yeah, the army or whoever can come in and make us go home and do this and that, but until the constitution is made, we are going to get together and we're going to finish this thing. That's the tennis court oath. So here's my question to you. If you were a French delegate at the tennis court oath, which right would you suggest goes first? What right as a citizen do you think is the most important? Okay. You can look on Google, to help you out. Look at our rights as citizens, um, and pick one. Which one do you think is truly the most important right? We have stuff like freedom of religion, freedom of the press, freedom of speech, the freedom to assemble peacefully without like the police or anyone like disrupting it. You know, we have the right to, where the authority, the cops or whoever, can't just come into our home and take whatever they want. They need a warrant that says where and what they're looking for. You know, um, we have trial by jury. Not just people who are not like you. People who are millionaires, billionaires, and some of that, but rather people who have lives just like you. You know, trial by jury. You actually, some people didn't have that. Um, public trials, where people can actually go in and see, make sure everything's cool in the up and up, not done in the middle of the night somewhere, and no one knows what the hell's going on. Because that's what kind of shady stuff happened in the past. Okay, so think of some rights that you have as a citizen. And which one do you think is the most important? Which one would you be fighting for? Saying, no, we need this one up front, number one. You know, which one would you be fighting for? Okay. So if you're still writing, please continue to write. But if you're done, we're moving on in three, two, one. So here's the thing. Louis the 16th was actually prepared to use force against the third estate. He was actually really ready to use the military and stuff like that against them. Um, and this really ticked off the people. They're like, wait. So you're telling me that the rich and, the powerful people, they can do what they want, they can say what they want, they don't have to do anything. But once we start talking about like what is a God-given right, start talking about like, there needs to be some type of change, and it goes against what, against these people, now you want to use it against us. When they take from us, no problem. But when we think we deserve this because it's a God-given right, you are going to send the military against us. Okay, you know. So July 14th, 1789, 900 Parisians took control of the Bastille. Now the Bastille was not only just a prison, but it's also an armory. Okay, um, this is a place, the kind of place where they sent people who couldn't pay their debts. People who stole something, bread or whatever, to feed their family. You know, now like I was talking about bread, the price was now at an all-time high on July 14th, 1789. So instead of like a bread costing $1, it jumped up to like $75, and then now it's like at the price of like $225. It's like ridiculously high, and the people are just fed up. They're like, no, no, this is just wrong. Um, so the mob of those people basically destroyed the Bastille brick by brick. They tore it down. They chopped at it with axes, things like that. So to the point where they even used their hands and feet to try to break it off and destroy the Bastille. Okay. Now, as this is going on, word spreads that hey, the people are fighting back, and in other places, the poor people start fighting back too. They're like, yeah, this is our moment. This is our moment to basically um, make a statement. So they start rising up, start you know taking over towns and stuff like that. Paris, the capital, is taken by the rebels. They control the police force. They control the city hall area. Um, they they took over the city. Now, King Louis, you know, is out and about, and he hears that one of his like aides, one of his people, tell him that hey, these 900 Parisians took over the Bastille, and now they're destroying it brick by brick, and they're uprising everywhere. And King Louis famously says, "Oh, what is this, a revolt?" And the guy, his name's right there, like Duke de la whatever. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce that. He tells him, "No, it is a revolution." You know, this is again when the people have spoken and said enough is enough. Okay, Louis cannot believe it. And the thing is, he does make some sense that his ancestors, the kings before him, treated the people worse than he did, and that is true. Some of them tortured people. Some of them, it's like, if you're not with me, you're really against me, and then we're gonna take care of you, type of thing. You bow before me, in every which way possible. Um, does that mean that he was a good guy? No, by all means, no. He didn't. He really didn't care too much about the French people. If he did, he would have done more, but he really didn't. You know. But again, he sees it as, oh, I'm not torturing them. I'm not putting them on like pikes and things like that, like my great 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 so and so did. You know. So here's your next question. Do you think in this country we will ever get to the point where all the poor and average citizen people become so angry enough that they're going to revolt against the rich and powerful? If so, when? If not, why not? Now, I don't know if you guys have seen the movie The Dark Knight Rises. It's the one with Batman and Bane and stuff like that, and Catwoman. But there's a part where he tells, when they blew up the bridges and all that stuff, and he tells the people of Gotham, he's like, the city's yours. Do what you will, you know. And they show the people walking down the street, going into the rich neighborhood area, and they're like dragging people out. They're destroying things. They're celebrating, popping off wine and champagne, you know. Um, and then they have the rich people on trial and stuff like that. So if you've ever seen the movie, if you haven't, type that in, put like on YouTube, go like The Dark Knight Rises, Gotham is yours, something like that. And they'll give a little speech, thing with Bane. But keep watching it, and you'll see what I mean with that scene. And tell me, do you ever think we'll get to that point? Do you think we'll ever get to that point? If so, when and why? And if not, tell me why. Why wouldn't we get to there? Okay. The writing prompt's on the bottom to help you out if you don't know how to start it. Okay. But we're moving on in 3, 2, 1. So now we've come to the end. Okay. So remember, you're only going to pick one of these questions to answer. The first one is, do you consider the tennis court oath a success? Why or why not? You know, remember, they did the oath. They met. They just said, "Hey, we're gonna get together, things like that, whenever we can, to finish this." Um, do you think they got everything down? You know, do you think they were able to represent everybody? Some of that. What do you think? Right. The second question is, why would the poor people view the Bastille differently than the nobles? Okay, so again, remember what the Bastille was, um, and why would poor people see it differently than rich people? you know, Knowing that it was a prison and armory, you know, why would the poor people view it differently than the nobles? And the last one is, do you think Louis XVI actually thought that the people would ever turn against them? Do you think it ever crossed his mind, even like once, that, these guys might get ticked off enough that they might, go against me? Or do you think that it never crossed his mind? Like, no, they would never. It's never happened before. It won't happen here. These people will not do that kind of stuff. What do you think? Okay. So remember, Pick one that's easier for you to answer. But once you're done with this lesson. Okay, so hopefully you learned something new. Next week is when the French Revolution really started kicking the gear, and you're going to see what um, King Louis and Marie Antoinette what they end up doing. Okay, so you guys take care, be safe, and I'll see you next week.